Mere Conservatism.
David Perry, I'm Cleve Walker. This is Mere Conservatism. All right, David, this is so good because the last time we talked, it was maybe Elon Musk was going to do it.
He was trying to buy Twitter.
Yeah. Now we're on the other side, and he's got it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me what's happening.
Well, the liberal meltdown has been very telling, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think that more than anything, the reaction from the left about Elon Musk buying Twitter has, not that we needed it, but has vindicated the conservative view of big tech.
Well, not only vindicated that view, but it's vindicated, well, it was just a view of conservatives that they want to be the only ones who have access, power, and control of social media or all media, tell the truth. And you're right. To me, if that was ever more obvious, this is that time.
If there wasn't censorship and there wasn't a huge bias with the way they ran the company, there wouldn't be this kind of outcry. And Musk has said as much. You see the tweet that he said. He sent a tweet that said something like the antibody reaction from the left exposes what this company has become.
And it also, to me, verifies that, to me, that Elon is the real deal, that he really does believe in free speech. Because the way they have reacted to him lets me know that he is, right now, threat numero uno.
Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see. But I think
I'm waiting to see exactly what happens because Elon Musk is not a conservative.
No,
he said many times that his standard is free speech and that he expects to annoy about 10% of people on the right and 10% of people on the left. He discusses that as the extremes. Now, I tweeted to him. He has not yet responded, but I told him, I said, listen, you might anger some on the right, but it's not going to be 10%. I'm telling you, the people that are, if you do what you say you're going to do, Mr. Musk, 10% on the right are not, that group is not that large that's going to be mad about you censoring or kicking off certain things from the platform because he's not talking about a free speech absolutism.
No.
He's talking about legal speech.
Well, David, but in my opinion, free speech ought to create disagreement and anger from both sides. If it's free speech, it will always express something that's going to anger somebody else who holds another. So to me, that's part and parcel of what free speech is about.
Well, and so this is what I'm thinking based on what he's saying. If he says that it's likely that he'll equally anger the right and the left, which I don't think is true if he does what he says he's going to do, but it makes me think that he's going to anger the left because he doesn't censor certain things. That's when they get mad, when things are allowed to be said. That's when the left gets mad.
Yes.
When the right gets mad is when certain things aren't allowed to be said.
Right.
So that means that he is going to have some moderation of some kind.
Have to.
And I actually think that that's okay. I don't have a problem with standards. One of the issues that we've had with these social media platforms for so long is that the standard was there was no real standard. The standard was we're leftists. So leftist ideas get to go out and conservative ideas don't. That's not a fair standard. So we don't have a problem with standards.
No.
But there are some people possibly that want the free speech absolutism. They want to be able to say whatever the violent threats.
You're always going to have that. You're always going to have those. Yeah.
Maybe some of those people might be angered, but yeah, if he does what he says, making the algorithms public so we can all see what the rules are.
That's the biggie.
Yes, what the rules are and why.
Yeah.
That's going to make it an even playing field at least, and that's all we're asking for.
But now, if I understand him correctly, David, he not only is going to make the algorithms public as to what they are right now, but he's going to also reveal what they were in the past.
If he can do that.
Which will shed a light a little bit on a lot of stuff that you and I have been complaining about, particularly the way Twitter and Facebook literally helped steer the election reporting in a certain way.
I'd be very interested in that, and that I'm not a tech guy, and I know that a lot of this digital stuff is there forever. If there's a way to hide any of that, get rid of it, shred the evidence, so to speak, digitally speaking. If there's a way to do that, they're probably going to do it.
They're going to try.
I'm also not holding out hope that we're necessarily going to get all the secrets.
That's good. That's a good point. All right. Well, changes are already taking place on Twitter. Babylon Bee is back. Isn't that cool? But something has already happened. A satirical video from the Babylon Bee mocking Twitter's employees for being so sensitive. It was flagged by Twitter this past Wednesday, had a warning statement on it for sensitive content.
Oh.
Okay. Now, the video...
What was sensitive about it?
Well, the video depicted a fictional character named Mandy who entered Twitter's human resources office to vent about Musk's takeover of the company. So they're talking to her and they say, so tell me, what is it about Elon Musk buying Twitter that actually bothers you? And remember, this is a safe space. There's no judgment. And the HR employee says, well, and she's crying, sobbing, if he buys our free speech platform, people will be able to have free speech on our platform. Anyway, that's something like that. So it goes on that way, and they got tagged for that. So they're not giving up without a fight. But Babylon Bee is back. A lot of other folks are back who were not there. Tucker Carlson is back because he been banned off too. Mm-hmm. So already there's some impact about this change, but I especially like Babylon Bee being back because one of the things that progressives and liberal people hate the most is to be laughed at. They can't take
be
it.
Mocked. They can't handle it.
Remember, the late Rush Limbaugh was really good at that, and I thought that was one of the reasons they hated him too. And Babylon Bee does it better than anybody I've ever seen, mocking satire. So they're back, and although they're still getting tagged, so we'll see what happens. I feel good about it though. Now, Trump says he's not coming back to Twitter. Mm-hmm. Okay,
we'll see.
You don't believe that he's going to stay off? He's got his own platform.
Yeah, but
Truth Social, which by the way is still the #1 app right now.
Yeah,
as far as downloads and stuff are concerned. And he's hired his own people to work it, and so he says right now is not interested in coming back to Twitter.
Of course he's not, because he has his own. But that doesn't mean he's. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I have a feeling that there's going to be a way for him to incorporate Twitter into his repertoire.
You took the words out of my mouth. It'll extend statements from his own platforms, and they'll end up on a Twitter account someplace. Because for a while, whatever you think about his tweets, which I was really impressed with a lot of his tweets, but whatever you think about that, he was the king on Twitter.
He owned it.
Yeah. So, and that was one reason to get about
actually, one thing that I expect could happen is that this is the type of thing Elon Musk would champion and do, but he may have a special. He may put together a special thoroughfare where things can be posted from Truth onto Twitter. Like some sort of, you know how Facebook and Twitter and Instagram will do this, where you can simultaneously post to Facebook and Instagram and a few other things. And there are services that do this for you. I think that Musk he wants Trump back on Twitter.
I know he does. I think he's already said that. Or something.
They're going to figure out a way where that can be piped in. I have a feeling.
Yeah, particularly because as we get closer and closer to the presidential election, what Trump says is just going to be. You know what I'm saying?
So Trump So what I'm saying is he may post on. I keep wanting to call it Trumpet.
No, it's Truth Social,
but it should be called Trumpet. That's what Elon Musk said. They should call it Trumpet.
I think it's clever.
But he may post on Truth, but it's going to show up on Twitter. And I don't know, Cleve, if that's actually a good thing. You and I have discussed that in some ways it's better for Trump to not be on Twitter because he gets so much heat on there.
Yeah.
And we're in a situation right now. This is not the
trying to distract away from the issue.
Right.
Okay.
Biden and the Democrats are in such trouble. The last thing you want is to have anybody look away from them and look at you. And this is why Donald Trump may not be the best candidate in the world, because he is all about look at me and what I'm doing, which is good. It's a strength in its own way. However, what I'm saying here is that the left and the Democrats they're doing such a bad job. You want everybody to look at them and realize how bad they're doing.
I think you may not be giving the Trumpster credit enough, though. I think that as we get closer to the presidential election, most of his statements, even on his own platform, are going to be right on Biden and company's tail the entire time because that's too easy a target.
I have to say, Cleve, I am famous for not giving Trump enough credit. So it's possible that is still happening.
Yeah, I know enough people are telling him that. But and I got into a back and forth, and I'm glad I thought of this. I was going to go on to the next topic, but I really got to get your take on this. I got a few thousand followers on Facebook. And we're going
Very
back.
impressive, by the way.
Well, I don't know. But, we were going back and forth a little bit because I made posts about Elon getting Twitter and yada, 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 and kind of excited about it. And they were saying, well, he's not a conservative. He's certainly not a Christian, because you and I are Christians and take our faith as a priority, and he's not. Okay. And they said he's also a globalist, that he also would like to see the governments and the nations of the world work together under some kind of understanding or agreement. Anyway, but my point to them was, and I went back and forth a little bit, I said, okay, I personally don't hold any kind of view that he is a Christian or a person of faith. I'm not looking into his heart, but I'm just saying he doesn't claim to be one. And, at some point you claim to be one if you are one. So I say he's not. And I do believe he is a prideful person. I do. I mean, I think his ego is huge. All right. Having said that, I just can't get across to people on our side, particularly people of faith, that it is ironic, but it's scriptural that God will use what I call heathens to do the right thing, to do good things.
You see it over and over again in Scripture.
But you don't. People don't grasp that. It's almost like on our side we got this litmus test. If the hero can't be pure and holy and Christian and Family Guy and yada yada yada, then no matter what they do, we cannot support it. That's the way he felt about Trump. Even though again he was doing a lot of beneficial stuff because it was him. So. Is there anything you can say to that person who says, we can't? And you yourself have said you're not going to, give Elon carte blanche until you actually see him operate. But what can you say to at least tell people that we need to give them the chance to do it before we?
Yeah, and I would say we need to be on guard and watch and see what he's going to do, and not assume that we're good now. We have Twitter. What do you mean? What do you mean we have Twitter? No,
right.
Maybe we don't. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. At the very best case scenario is that it's just an open platform, which is again all we can ask for.
Which what he's promising.
And I think that somebody can be a not conservative and a non-Christian and still provide an open platform. I mean, obviously, it's not a doesn't have to be somebody that matches our values to do the right thing and the good thing. When it comes to these platforms, it should be a neutral platform, which is what he's calling for, not a Christian platform. So, let's not expect it to be something that it's not and never was intended to be. Your Twitter can be whatever you want it to be, and I recommend people use their social media presence to put out scripture, talk about Jesus, and those types of things. This is it's an opportunity to change it from being actively against our values to something that's neutral. And that's what I'm hoping for. To me, that's best case scenario.
That's very well
is
put.
Neutrality.
Yeah, that's very well put.
Not necessarily.
I think our side doesn't want neutrality. Some of our side want him to edge our way now.
And I don't think he's going to do that. I don't expect him to do that. I don't think he's going to do that. But I think it's going to be a vast improvement. And I don't think that Musk might be a globalist, I guess, if you want to call it that. But he's not a globalist in the same way that like Bill Gates.
No, right.
There's something else going on there with Gates and some of these other people. And Elon Musk is somebody who actually, I feel like he actually cares about humans. He is an elite, but I don't think he is an elite the same way that some of these other people are. And the best example I can think of to express that is his position of what he says about people having babies. There's this thing with Bill Gates and a lot of these rich and powerful people that they talk about. They love abortion,
population
control, especially in like third world countries because it's a problem. These people can't get enough food, and so our solution is they need to have less people.
Right,
kill them.
Yeah, they've said it
in the womb, and also castrate them or give them lots of birth control, sterilize them, stuff like that. That's real stuff. I mean, there are people that really seem to not really go for human flourishing. And
because Mother Earth can't take but so much.
Right.
Yeah.
And Musk isn't like that. He's somebody that says we need to have more babies. Look at we need humans. And he seems to like humans.
Yeah.
That's kind of a trite way to say it, but you know what I'm saying. It's
it's
a totally different when you look at the difference between let's say it this way. So you're a superhero fan. The difference between a rich, powerful person like Lex Luthor and a rich, powerful person like Tony Stark. They're both very rich, very influential, very smart, and all that stuff. One of them is a good guy and one of them is a bad guy. And the key is one of them has the best interest of the world and people at heart, and one of them has their own best interest.
Gotcha.
And a twisted... Here, Thanos is another example. You know, Thanos is somebody who wanted to save, quote unquote, save the universe by getting rid of a third of the life forms in the universe. And he thought, and in these stories, villains, they think they're doing a good thing. They think they're doing the best thing. And that's why I think that somebody like Gates feels, to me, more like a villain, and somebody like Musk feels more like a hero because he doesn't actually want to harm people. He likes people,
That's a great. I've never heard a comparison like that before, but that's a great comparison, particularly if you are familiar with the Marvel series.
If you think about it, Musk is Tony Stark. Think about his bent on technology, the things that he's trying to do. It's kind of amazing.
And he may think that's the answer, and we may not think it's the answer. But one thing he isn't doing is siding with those who have this global vision and use their wealth, everything in it, to pursue that. For example, Soros. Okay, George Soros. He uses his wealth but as secretly as possible, as clandestine as possible, as do a lot of the other great billionaires, movers, and shakers who are trying to get things done kind of underneath the radar. Musk isn't that way. Whatever he's going to do, he's going to trumpet it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It feels more like, Soros feels like the chess master, moving pieces around and using people and countries even as pawns.
Exactly.
And Musk feels more like, I don't know, hungry hippos, where let's everybody jump in and everybody let's play, right? You see what I'm saying?
I do, but
it feels like he's more like, I feel like somebody like Musk would value me, the peon, compared to somebody like him more than somebody like Soros or Bill Gates would.
I think you make a good point. Again, the comparisons are really interesting there. One thing about Elon is he also is going to get rid of, and I don't know how he's going to do it, but he has ways, I'm sure there's ways to do this, the bots off of social media, off Twitter in particular, because he believes the bots have been used, and I don't want to say about one side in particular, but I do believe it's one side, to actually create a narrative that's not there, that there's a larger than life support and opinion about something that's not true. And so he wants to get the technology that will somehow screen out these bots and these programs that are...
All you have to do is say, identify streetlights.
I hate those, by the way.
It just confuses the robots. I bet that's going to be very similar to what the authentication is going to be like.
And which is good. Again, that takes... Because the Russians and the Chinese, to the extent they do try to influence our social media, that's one of the things they use all the time is bots. And it does have an influence on some people. So there's that. But anyway, I'm happy that Elon Musk has done this. Whatever he does, I don't believe it's going to be worse than what it already is. And I do believe he's going for neutral because he believes in his own words. Now, I take him at his words until he shows otherwise, that this is the cornerstone of a democracy. It's free speech.
Well, and I'll say one other thing about Facebook. And if it's a platform that is used the way it should be used, and it's really an open platform, and there's not a lot of censorship and things going on, Twitter is really kind of a small company compared to some of the other ones.
Definitely.
But a lot of news is generated on it because of the nature of it. It has always been... It has a very big influence, even though it's smaller. I think it could be much bigger with Musk at the helm if it's an open platform, and also he incorporates it into some of his other companies. He has one of his companies, I can't remember now what it's called, but they have satellites that can not project, it's not the right term for it, but they basically enable internet anywhere. He can go and position a satellite over an area of the world and provide internet to that location.
Amazing.
He did this in Ukraine.
Yeah.
This is a big part of the war in Ukraine is Elon Musk's technology giving internet access to people in Ukraine. And if he can do that and incorporate that with Twitter somehow, I think Twitter could be a much, much more influential.
It's going to get bigger
now, even more than it is now.
Yeah, it's going to get bigger under his.
I think it could.
I mean, anybody who can tell the government of the United States with its NASA program, well, get back out the way. I'll show you how to do space stuff. Okay, which he did with his SpaceX. So again, I'm not high on the guy as a person, because I don't believe he's a person of faith, and I have the feeling he is quite arrogant. Okay, although I think he's also very intelligent. But again, God uses these kind of people all the time to do good things, even if they're not aware that he is the one enabling them to do it. So it's just a thought. Real quickly, an Illinois school district, and I bring this back up because you are the father of 3 lovely children. I have 3 granddaughters and 4 grandkids. Anyway, an Illinois school district is having their schools teach about sexual orientation and gender study, including projects and lessons for preschoolers. The curriculum is part of that school district's LGBTQ plus Equity Month. You probably know there was such a month. Long story short, they're saying throughout the month, teachers and pre-K through 8th grade students will broaden their understanding of identity of self and others, allyship, whatever that means, family structures, vocabulary, gender expression, stereotypes, colors on the intersectional pride flag, and the historical contributions of LGBTQ plus people. Now, the difference with what they're doing is they're being out about it, okay, in that district. And why not, I guess, because I think the jig is up on that this is not happening. I only bring that up to say this, again, is who they're after. Listen, if you take away the innocence of a little child, that child is bent towards disaster. And now there are districts like that openly doing it.
It's bad for these children.
Yeah, it's awful.
That's what you're saying here, is that it's not just that's one way to look at the world, and I'd rather my children not have that.
That's
but
not it.
It's if you want your children to learn that stuff, sure, fine. Well, this is not my school district, whatever. No, it's actually bad for these kids to do this.
Yeah.
It's actually we can say that it's not good for little bitty kids to be subjected to confusing instruction about gender and and
David,
these,
I don't even care if they were giving the correct instructions about sexual activities and family life.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't start before 3rd grade. Okay.
Well,
okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's one way to look at it. I mean, even if you were saying the right stuff, it's not age appropriate.
Right. The whole subject matter should be off limits. And only that,
That's
of
true.
course, parents, we should be the ones that teach our kids these things.
Well, one of the problems with some of this stuff, with this type of sex education, I heard this week talk about sex education and it being based in like pleasure-based education. Mm-hmm. And the difference there is when I learned sex education, it was biology.
Right. Facts.
It was science. It was these are the parts. Right. This is what biology. They do. This is it wasn't a when you start talking about the way that they do it, it is a value thing. It is not a fact-based, this is how your body works. This is a difference between a boy and a girl. But that's biologically, scientifically based. It's not a value thing. Yep. And so when you take away the biological purpose of sex and all that stuff, you're left with just what makes you feel good. Now it's a value. Yeah. What you're teaching is values. And this is a really big problem because these are not good values. They're confusing to children. They're also not what most people want to teach their kids.
It's also trying to teach them that this is about, I think it's encouraging them to experiment and to actually try to engage in things.
And that's why the groomer label has been applied to these things, because it does. When you talk about it with kids this young, they're going to want to figure this stuff out. Yeah. And you're right. It does. It is logically going to make them want to figure it out, explore it, investigate it. Sexual activity is going to flow from this. That's why you shouldn't be talking about this stuff with little bitty kids, and that's why we call you groomers when you do it.
And that's why Ron DeSantis and people who will follow his lead are doing the right thing in wresting that power away from the schools and placing it where it belongs, in the hands of parents. And so, wow, that's heavy. Again, they're coming after our kids. We did a program on that before, but that's still true. Because if they can get our kids now, they got them in the future generation as well. Well, David, as always,
Well, let me say one other thing about
ahead.
that.
Yeah,
So the parents' rights, and parents should be able to teach their kids what they want. And yes, I do believe that. But if a parent wants to teach their kids that boys can be girls, there is no such thing as gender, and that little John, you can or Cleve, you can turn into Clavetta. Mm-hmm. If you want to be Clavetta, you can be. Is Clavetta a girl name? I don't know. You could be Clavetta if you want to. That's actually. I'm not okay with you teaching your own kid that either. It's not right. It's wrong to do that. It's confusing, and you could call it abuse.
That's the case then that we should argue that in the public square.
You should, right. and we should. And I'm not saying you don't take somebody's kid away for that, or I'm not saying that we should use the power of the state to do that. But we should have some standards in society where we say this is normal, this is not normal, this is not good for your kids. We have truancy laws about people not taking their kids to school and not educating them and considering that abuse. Your kids are going to learn something, and we have to decide what's the right thing for these kids to learn and what's wrong. And it's not right to teach Cleve that he can be Clavetta if he feels like it one day. That's not the truth.
That's
and
definitely
it's
not
confusing
true.
And it's harmful for them.
And I think it's in a way it's child abuse. But having said that, that's still different than a government-sanctioned institution deciding we're going to teach that. It's
well, like Biden says, they're your kids. When they're in the classroom, they're your kids. And I think he meant that in a nice way, but it sounds really creepy coming from a Democrat these days.
It is creepy. David, we've run out of time again for this edition of Mere Conservatism. Folks can hear it anytime they want to.
Check it out on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on YouTube. Just search for MereCon Media, and also on Facebook. Just search for Mere Conservatism.
I, for one, am going back on Twitter, our state officer profile. I think we all should until we see what happens.
Hey, by the way, follow Mere Conservatism on Twitter.
That's even better.
We do have a Twitter handle.
Yeah, we didn't get canceled. Listen, you have a great day, and remember, don't panic. Keep the faith. It is not over with yet.